In the days of COVID, everyone has been in lockdown, and in this time, they're turning to other means to actually deal with their stress and anxiety. And some of those means are drugs and alcohol. And today's show, we're going to be talking to an alcohol expert who helps people actually get through this problem and become sober. Hi, this is Joey Buzzertool, and welcome to the Secret Men's Business Podcast. On today's show, we're going to be speaking to Christian Van Dade. He's going to be talking to us about his methods of helping people get through sobriety and becoming sober through COVID. Hey, Christian, how are you?
Good morning, Joey. I'm well this morning. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm good. It's good that we finally got you on the show. I've been trying to get you on for ages, and now here you are.
Absolutely. It's nice to be here. I think my services are in demand at the moment due to
the
environment. So I have been busy, but it is good to connect. Absolutely.
So before we start, do you want to just introduce yourself to the audience and just tell them where you've come from and what you do?
Absolutely. My name's Christian. I am the quit coach, and I help people quit the things that are destroying their life. So that can be a myriad of things in today's environment, and it's always changing. And at the moment, alcohol, sugar, and a variety of other drugs is top of the list. But really, for me, alcohol is my speciality. And after that, I find that a lot of the principles that I employ that have been successful in helping people quit anything, really. So I've sort of broadened out and become the quit coach. So cigarettes, obviously, is a very popular one. But it's anything, really, any habit that someone is looking to get rid of for any reason. I'm not here to judge. And I help people do that. So I am the quit coach, and I formulated this plan, which was originally around alcohol, but it has expanded, and currently in our current times, it's taken off. So it's become a big thing.
So I know that you said you've been busy. What are the other indicators that are telling you that people are turning to alcohol or other means to deal with what's going on in the world?
Well, I think this is probably the best example of all, Joey. We are here in Melbourne. We're both in Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a whole lot of laws. We're not going to talk about politics or anything like that today, but we can deal with exactly what's in front of us. And that's part of what I do when in the coaching process. We just got to deal with what is there, right? Whether we agree with it or not, doesn't really matter. Okay. That's not part of what we do. But let's look at what we are faced with right here, right now. So how long can we go outside for at the moment, Joey?
1 hour.
1 hour. Okay. What time does the curfew kick in?
8 o'clock.
Okay. What are the reasons for going outside?
Work, if you're essential, shopping.
Yep. Shopping.
Shopping. Shopping, exercise.
Yep. Okay.
And I don't know what the last one is. What is the last one?
I think it's to care for somebody if they're, yeah. And how far can we go?
5 kilometres.
Wow. So we got a lot of pretty stringent rules there. Yeah. Okay. What, in terms of shopping, we are in fashion capital of Australia, yeah?
Yeah.
Can we go to...
No, we can't go
buy
shopping.
some shoes?
Only food.
Okay, only food.
And alcohol, probably. That's what you're coming towards, aren't you?
Absolutely. Out of all of these rules, you can only leave your house for 1 hour of exercise or to go and care for someone, providing they're within 5 kilometres, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe you can go more than 5 if you're caring for someone. And you can only go to shops, providing it's a supermarket, to buy essential foods, because if you don't eat, you die. Okay, so that's essential. Absolutely essential. You've got to eat, yeah? Okay, I get that, okay. The other shop, there's only a couple of others. The other one is a pharmacy, okay, because if you're on medication, and like so many people are, if you don't have your medication, you die. So that's essential, yeah? Okay. What's the other one that's open at the moment?
The bottle shop.
Dan Murphy's or whatever, it's the bottle shop. Like, that just goes to show how pervasive this alcohol is in our society, is that we've locked everything down. And you can't go to your favourite restaurant, your favourite pub. You can't go to your favourite fashion outlet. You can't do so many things at the moment. But the things that you can do are the essentials, which are the supermarket, the pharmacy, and the bottle shop.
Yeah.
So if we ever needed like a true sign to show that even when this government is prepared to do the most stringent of things, there's one thing that they just possibly can't imagine, and that is locking down the bottle shops, So,
and it's interesting, I guess, because as Melbourne winds down, this podcast is international. So it's probably going to be reaching people in the UK and in America where, the UK is about to go into lockdown. So, do you think that whole philosophy with the shops is an international thing? Like, I don't know. Do they have the same rules in the other countries? Or is it an Australian thing?
I'm not too sure, but I think probably for most of us in Western culture, if you look at how alcohol is involved in our life, I couldn't possibly imagine what do they call them in England, the off license. I couldn't imagine the
Yeah,
off license being closed in the UK. I mean, that would send them about as mad as what the Australians would be, surely.
yeah.
You know,
So why do you think? Well, because it's open, I guess it's available. What do you think is occurring for people to be drawn into that? Because I've actually been the same as you. I've had an increase in clients who have come in with drinking, and some of the numbers that they've been giving me, I've been really astounded. Like yesterday, I had a client who was drinking 4 bottles of wine a day.
wow.
Four, I know, and it's like, so it's a bit. That's why I said wow, but you don't want to judge. But why do you think they're exceeding or increasing the volume?
Obviously the extra time on people's hands, and the things that normally maybe give them self-imposed rules are just not occurring at the moment. So it's like, oh, I've got to drive somewhere later, those type of things, or I've got to be somewhere, or I've got an event to attend, or I've got things to do. um, there are probably a lot of reasons why people are indulging more and more heavily and more frequently. But let's just, if you go back just a couple of steps, or maybe go back in someone's average lifetime, if you look at us, and it was a good question what you asked in terms of what other countries like, say, UK, are going to be doing, like Western
Mm,
culture. If we look at how alcohol presents in our life, we go all the way back to the day we're born,
mm,
you know, and even before the day you were born. Because back then, let's face it, like a lot of mums were very health conscious and took good care of themselves, but a lot of them would have still drank alcohol,
yeah.
and there is a chance that we would have probably onboarded or taken or consumed some alcohol whilst
Oh,
we
we
were.
were at 5 years old. We were allowed to have a glass of wine at every public holiday. So, like, I started drinking wine at 5.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So even in the womb, we might have consumed some alcohol. On the day you're born, even if it's not given to you directly, it's around wetting the baby's head and all this type of thing. It's so common.
Mm,
It's all part of the process. People sneaking in champagne into the hospital on the day you're born, and people celebrating with alcohol. And then as you grow up through life, as you go through, like you say, having a glass of wine, because you're having a treat,
mm,
like over Sunday dinner, or like you say, a public holiday. And then as you're growing up, from 5 onwards, every time you go to a wedding, an engagement, a birthday party, any event, you see alcohol, it's always there. And, whether your football team loses, you can sort of commiserate with alcohol. And if your football team wins, you can celebrate with alcohol. And as you sort of develop through all of your teenage years, you sort of see this thing growing more and more and more, because suddenly at some stage in the very foreseeable future, whether it's sort of 13, 14, 15, you're going to start being exposed to it at parties and all the
mm,
rest of it, because it's always been there. And
yeah.
out of all the drugs in the world, this is by far the most socially acceptable. And the fact that shops are open in the middle of a lockdown just proves exactly how accessible and socially acceptable this drug is.
Mm,
But also that culminates at the same time of coming of age. And tell me an 18-year-old who hasn't experienced some sort of trauma in their life, where it's a capital T trauma or a little t trauma, it's almost impossible to get through our up to 18 without experiencing some trauma. And whether we feel like we've got low self-esteem or got some other issues that we need to get on top of or work with, um, at that same time that we sort of culminate or come out of that period of self-discovery, 18 years of age, alcohol becomes legal and totally available. And like I said, we've been conditioned for the last 18 years that this is the most socially acceptable drug, and it gets presented to us when we are at our most vulnerable time in our life, probably.
mm,
And unlike other drugs, there's none of that shame or guilt or illegality around it. So it's so easy to turn to.
mm,
And then how
yeah.
we then deal with it from there on in the rest of our life then probably dictates to us
Mm.
how we're going to cope.
Can
And
I was going to say to you though, like, I don't want to, like you said earlier, I don't want to judge. I'm not wanting to
Mhm.
judge anyone, but like I am. There's a bit of a concern with the alcohol consumption that's actually taking place with parents.
Mm.
They're at home. So, are you finding from your clients that it is? Are they saying to you it's a coping mechanism, and they realize there's an issue, and that's why they've come to see you? What's
Yeah.
the reason why they come?
Normally they have some sort of aha moment where they realize, shit, this is something I can't continue. So I was speaking to a mum the other day that she went out quickly to the bottle shop recently. And as she quickly zoomed home because she left her kids home, who she said they were just at the age where she wouldn't normally leave them at home, but just
Yeah.
wanted to quickly nip out. And as she swung back into the driveway, she collected the rubbish bins with the front of her car and sent them flying across the front lawn. And
Okay.
then she said to herself, imagine if that was one of my kids.
Yeah.
So, and that necessarily wasn't just because she was in such a rush. And, this is just something she wasn't normally doing. I guess it's the pressure of homeschooling and all the rest of it. She's just got to get out. And, having that one drink a day with the increase of pressure, like I was saying before,
Mm,
this is what you've always turned to because you always have. And then
mm.
you've got the opportunity to start doing it maybe on a daily basis because you're under this lockdown condition. Doesn't take long for something to become a habit.
Yeah. So, in your eyes, like I know that we could talk about this for hours, but just in your eyes, what would be another option to utilize? I know coming to see you and doing some hypno or getting rid of the habit, but if our listeners were listening or they are listening, listeners are listening and they're realizing that they've got a stress release which is called a bottle of wine. What other options would you offer them?
There's lots of different things around these days, whether it's mindfulness in terms of meditation. But I honestly think exercise is one of the best things that you can do because that seems to be the one thing that covers a lot of bases in a short period of time. So if you've got half an hour or an hour each day, just to, I call myself the quick coach and maybe my approach isn't the same as everyone else's, but I say just thrash yourself, whatever
Mm,
it takes to sweat and to really oxygenate your body and really breathe heavily.
yeah.
That's really what you should be looking to do because you'll find that the relaxation effect of that will take over the next few hours. So you get an extended period of time. So you're not just in the moment. Meditation is a great pursuit, and I would encourage that. But you get the relaxation maybe for the period you're doing it,
Mm,
and it can also all come back to you pretty quickly afterwards.
yeah.
But if you exercise and really go hard for half an hour or an hour, you'll find that that sense of relaxation can spin off for a few hours afterwards. I think there's a word for that post-exercise
Mm.
oxygen consumption.
I like that word, thrash it out.
Yeah, that's it.
And
And
what
then you
about,
sleep better, and sleep is so
yeah.
important.
Yeah, and what about because this is a question I'm asking a lot of the mental health people that are coming on the show is I think a big part of what we're going through is about adaptability and acceptance.
Mhm.
And what would you suggest for people to accept that this is what's going on in the world? Because I think a lot of the stresses that are being created are about anxieties of the future. Am I going
Mhm.
to lose my job? Am I going to not have money? Is the virus going to get me? All that sort of stuff. So, how would you recommend, or what's your take on acceptance?
Um, I guess it's a probably simplistic view, and that is really if there are things in life that are in your control, um, then there's nothing to worry about because you're in
Mm,
control. So if you can control it, nothing to worry about. If there's things that are out of your control, well, there's nothing to worry about because they're out of your control.
yeah,
So either way, whether you can control them or not, there's really nothing to worry about.
yeah,
Things that you can control, though, in terms of what I do with people's habits, is whether they drink today or not, or whether they smoke a joint today or not, or whether they eat chocolate today or not. So, in some ways, it's flipping that need for control and making it a strength rather than something that's negative. It turns it into a positive, saying, well, sure, you're feeling anxious because you've got this need to control things, but you're trying to control things that you can't if you want
yeah,
to
yeah. I mean,
become
it's interesting,
control.
isn't it? It's like there are people that I got in my life that are doing that, and there are the people that are still holding on to. I'm going to call it the drama. I don't mean to be rude, but you know what
Hmm.
I mean. It's like once you accept something, it just creates this whole opening, doesn't it, to be creative and to do things rather than you don't realize how much energy is spent with worrying, and then time and effort, and then all of a sudden, like you've drank alcohol, you've done all this stuff, and you're going, oh God, I've done nothing today. It's because you're not dealing with the acceptance.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the common sayings from my own personal experience, is I used to say, I drink alcohol because I've got all of these problems. And
Mm,
then when I stopped drinking alcohol, I realized I didn't have any problems.
yeah.
So, and that's a nice story. In reality, of course, I still had problems after I stopped drinking alcohol, but I just found it was so much easier for me to cope
Mm,
with them. And I find the same with my clients all the time. I said,
mm.
all right, you've got all of these problems, these issues, and the world's falling down around you, and you've come to see me to quit drinking alcohol or any of the other things you want to quit. Well, let's just quit that first because that will be one less thing to worry about. And then we'll see where we're at in the future. And normally, when they got rid of the thing that's really pervasive or that they come to see me with, the thing that's top of mind, whether it is alcohol or sugar or anything else, then they go, "Oh, I'm not so worried about anything else now."
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? Mm.
I mean, in regards to the drinking, do you think that the people that are living on their own are more at risk?
Um,
Because it's been weeks. Matt, I was trying
mm,
to think about this before I called you. Is that, if I was living on my own for like 6, 7, 8 weeks, it would create this. If you're not used to it, if you're a social person, it must. What are you hearing from people that live on their own?
they're definitely feeling isolated. I guess it all goes back to their individual coping mechanisms because, one of the good things with people who quit alcohol, for example, is that they get their feelings back. So they start
Mm.
feeling more. And one of the bad things about people who quit alcohol is that they get their feelings back.
Yeah.
So I guess it's depending on how you're coping in the current time. So I think, if this is something that you maybe went to in pre-COVID times, the chances of it exasperating if you're isolated. And
Mm.
once again, you don't have all those parameters about traveling and driving and events and all the things that might have normally just sort of curtailed you a little bit. Then absolutely, and I'm hearing it more and more. People just saying, "Well, there was nothing else to do."
Yeah.
And let's not forget, we're talking about drugs which are addictive.
Well, also they give you an altered state, don't they? So, I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm telling myself that I've done the opposite. Like I've got so much to do. Like if I was to drink, I would be really behind. And I guess you're right. It's up to the person, isn't it? And some
Mm,
people, I was ready for COVID, I think, because I've gone through historical things in my past where I've been limited, like
yep.
an illness and all that. So I think it prepared me. Well, other people would have been shocked. And so
Mm,
they may not have had access to those, maybe the creative side, to see, oh, this is an opportunity for me to clean my cupboards or to do this or to do that. So
hmm
do you feel like that people are starting to, get connected to that now more? Like we've been through all those pre-times, like the toilet paper fiasco, the seeing
hmm
Italy and all that. Like, how do you think people are seeing the future?
I think people are going to be far more appreciative of the things that they do have in their life, and the opportunity to be more aware rather than want to dumb down your experiences. So I had speaking to a client the other day, and she was saying she's now about 4 weeks alcohol free, and she was saying that the last thing she wants to do when she goes to a social event in the future is get out of it and drink more than what she used to because she always used to
Mm,
drink too much, and she should see that as her escape.
yeah,
She goes, I'm escaping reality by going to an event Saturday night. My husband's going to drive, so I can drink as much as I want, and I'll probably get pretty shit faced. She goes, now that's the last thing I want to do. I want to be more present. I want to be able to connect with the people and be able to hear them, what they're saying. I want to tune into them,
mm,
and I want to be more aware of my surroundings because I don't want to get out of it because I'm missing these people. So
yeah,
why would I go somewhere and then get out of it? I want to be
yeah.
into it.
That's interesting. Like, I interviewed a DJ the other day who we were talking about the nightclub scene and how that's gone under, and
Mm-hmm.
how what he saw moving forward. And I guess wanted to like bring that question into our conversation. Like, see, there's a part of the culture where they're dying to go out. So, do you think that, or do you predict that they may actually do what you're just saying that that woman doesn't want to do? Do you think they're going to go out and get trashed? Because they've been,
Oh,
you know what I mean? Because like, I was just again picturing all these young people who've been held back, bars open. What's going to happen?
absolutely. Yeah. I think, there's obviously going to be some unleashing of tension for some people, and particularly the young people. They'll do what they do best, particularly in our culture, around binge drinking for some of them, and drug taking, and a lot of other things. When the first nightclub's open, I can only imagine what it's going to be. But if it's going to be like that around Christmas time and New Year's, it's going to be one hell of a New Year's, that's for sure.
Mm.
Um, of course, yeah. I mean,
We
how
still don't
much
know.
have we really changed?
We still don't really know what it's going to look like, do we? Like,
Mm.
it may be you have to wear masks in there. It's such a weird ideology, isn't it? We don't really know what anything looks going to look like in the future. So I'm sort of a little bit excited, but at the same time curious.
Mm.
I was going to ask you, do you have like an ideology of what sober looks like? Like, do you want to? I think you want to share something about
Yeah,
of what's
absolutely.
yeah.
So the thing that I really encourage people, and I can probably best share an image to sort of, let's see if this comes up on the screen. How's that
Yeah.
looking?
Yeah, good.
Okay, good, good. So this is what I call the sober house, and this is reflects my personal journey, which when I put it down on paper, and I was coaching clients who wanted to quit drinking, I started going through my experience with them and detailing it, and it came out just like this, almost by accident. So I thought, well, if it resonates as easy as this, it's probably worth sharing. So if you look at this in the clockwise direction, it spells the word sober. And for people who quit drinking, I always say that's the beginning of the journey. It's not the end. And for people who want to quit and successfully quit, I find in my experience, it's saying, well, okay, now I've quit. Well, what's next? And always looking to what's next and moving forward, because it's not the end of something, it's the beginning of something. And really, quitting is something we do if we can get that done as quickly as possible, and whether it's drugs or sugar or alcohol or anything, um, then say, okay, I've done that. Well, what's next? What's moving on? So the first thing to do is just to stop. And you can do that anytime in the first 0 to 3 months. Some people want to taper off slowly. Some people want to go cold turkey. It all depends on people's personal perspective and any health guidance they may get from doctors, because going cold turkey for some people is not appropriate. But sometime in that sort of first 3 months, to get down to a point of total abstinence. And then being open for the next maybe up to a year, just being open to the possibility that this is a lifestyle that you can live with, because that's going to be a huge adjustment phase, and you're going to start attending events and doing things where you're going to feel different because you're going about your business in a completely different way, like going to a party and not drinking. It's going to feel a bit weird, and can you really last the distance, or you're going to leave at 10 p.m. and all sorts of things that people will have to go through this adjustment phase. And I found that the question I was asking myself at that time was, who am I? Because now I'm a different person, because before I relied on alcohol so much. It was the one thing that I had. It was the go-to. It was the regular thing. It was always there. It was it was like in COVID times. It's the one thing that was still available. So I went through this period, and that was really for the first year of not drinking, of asking myself, who am I? And really answering those questions on a deeper level and getting more in touch with who I am, and what is going to motivate me for the future. And think, well, maybe I can live like this. Maybe I don't have to go back to the old ways. And I say it to all the people who quit. I always say, like, when we quit initially, I say, we don't have to think about this forever. I just need you to go through a period of abstinence, or you need to go for a period of abstinence to work out and give yourself some clarity about this is how you can live your life if you want to live your life in this way. Just be open to the possibility, because it will always be there. It will be there in 5 years' time. Alcohol will be there. If you want to go back to it, you can go back to it whenever you want. So after stopping, being open and asking yourself, who am I? If you realize it, or come to the conclusion that this is something that you want to live with and exist alcohol-free or drug-free for the rest of your life, then you need to build on your strengths. And the question that you asked to yourself then, or that I was asking myself when I went through it, was, how do I live like that? Or how do I live this? So for me, it was getting more in tune with exercise. It was getting interested in all the things I was never interested in before, like meditation and hypnosis, and there's anything to do with the power of the mind, and also physical pursuits as well, because I was very unhealthy when I was drinking. I gave up smoking as well, and I got invested in a whole lot of other things in terms of nutrition, and it just opened up. So I built on all of those strengths, and I made myself physically stronger as well as mentally stronger. And for me, and for a lot of people, it can take a few years to do that, to build up on your strengths, to realize that this is something you're just going to be for the rest of your life. There's no rush. You just take your time doing that, building on your strengths. And then moving on, when you really solidify yourself, when you come to a period in life where it's no longer the daily challenge, even though you may not be a drinker one day at a time, but it's not something you sort of fixate on. It's just something you are. You're just like a non-drinker. Just like you don't have to wake up in the morning and worry about a whole lot of things, you don't worry about not drinking. And that's when it becomes to expanding on your horizons, and asking, why am I here? That's the next phase of the journey. And when you're getting this far away, this is like 3 or 4 years past your last time taken drugs or had alcohol or something else, and you're still moving forward. You're still on the journey. You're still moving in a positive direction. So quitting alcohol then really becomes, or whatever the drug was that you stopped, becomes the stimulus for a lifetime of change, which is always ongoing, and it's exciting. So there's no reason to go back. I mean, why would you go back? Because you're experiencing all this personal rewarding growth. And you look at expanding your horizons. And for me, that was like changing careers, and doing something completely different. I used to work in sales and do all sorts of things, which I was never particularly happy about, but I thought I had to do because it earned good money, or for whatever reason, I felt like I was kind of stuck in that area. But by then, after stopping drinking, after being open to the possibilities that this is a life I could lead, and then building on my strengths, and I felt in that expansive phase, I was ready for a major change in life. So, I moved states and changed careers. And I did a whole lot of changing. And that was all about and discovering about why I'm here. And it's only now, and I haven't drank now for 14 years. And it's taken me, I'm only sort of morphing into this phase now, the R phase of the journey, which is what I've called radiate love, where I start thinking about, well, what is my legacy? What do I want to leave? And for example, I haven't drank alcohol for 14 years and I have a 10-year-old daughter. So she'll never know me as the drunk dad.
Mm.
Never, ever will she know me as the drunk dad, providing I stay sober one day at a time. So that's my part of my legacy. And another part of my legacy is doing things like talking to you today.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that, well, maybe someone watches this. Maybe someone looks at my little sober house and thinks, oh, well, maybe that's something I can try. Because this is a long journey. And the last part, the R journey, if you look at the other words that I've got there, all little time frames around it, the radiate, the love, the legacy one has got no expiry date. This is something I'm committed to now for the rest of my life. So, and it's taken me 14 years to get there. It might take someone else 14 months to get there. But it might take someone else 20 years.
Yeah, I was actually going to say to you, what advice would you give someone that might be uncomfortable with the times? Like they see those times and there's a fear that it's going to take a long time. Because I hear that a lot as well. People thinking, oh my God, I want to do it now, but they don't realize the patience or not. I don't know, what would you call it? The trust that it's all part of the journey, isn't it? Because you can't just go from I'm giving up to legacy. You need to go through those. You need to go through those phases because that's how you learn about yourself.
Absolutely. So until you can fully answer those questions, you're probably not ready to move on to the next phase. And like I said, that could be different for everyone. But I do know when it comes to quitting, and whether this is sugar or alcohol or any other kind of drug, is you can't do tomorrow's quitting today. You can only do today's quitting today. So if you wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm not going to drink alcohol today, and then you put your head on the pillow at the end of the night and you haven't drank alcohol, you can congratulate yourself and say, job done. That's all you had to do.
Yeah.
That's all you had to do. You can't worry about quitting at Christmas. You can't worry about quitting for your birthday. You can't worry about quitting for whatever event you've got coming up, so-and-so's wedding or whatever. Because until you're there, what's the point? That it would be true anxiety. And so many people worry, oh, how can I quit because I've got this and this and this coming up? Well, I go, well, you can only quit today.
Okay. Just before we finish, just your last bits of advice, like moving forward into the future, we have got uncertainty. We don't know what's going to unfold. That's okay. It's like you said, you can't control it. So what advice would you give people about how they could project their thought process into the future without getting caught up with a distraction like alcohol?
I really think it's about taking a very factual look at where you're at the moment. And, the health guidelines, they're not around, because some guy just invented it and threw it out there. They're there for a reason. And if you are consuming more than what they're suggesting is a relative amount of alcohol in your life, then you just need to be realistic and sort of say, well, I need to cut myself out. I need to give myself alcohol-free days. And if that is, for men and women too, so for 4 drinks a day for men and women 2 drinks a day. And if you're not having, say, 4 alcohol-free days or 2 alcohol-free days, whatever it is you're going to set yourself, if you say, this is what I'm going to do, and then you find you can't do it, well, then you know you got a problem. I mean, that's just the facts, okay? So the facts are set yourself some limits, some hard limits, and then stick to them. And then if you can't stick to them, ask yourself why and think, well, have I really got an issue?
Yeah.
It's just facts. It's just what it is. And if it happens week after week after week after week, probably the biggest reality is it's going to get worse before it gets better unless you take some steps.
Yeah, it's so funny that I haven't had a drink since I've been diagnosed with a condition, and like I thought back to the days of me drinking, and I can't even imagine drinking to that level again. So it's funny how you can just get used to it. Not funny. It just happens, doesn't it? You just allow that to be the new you.
Absolutely. And I'm not anti-alcohol. I'm not anti-alcohol at all. Not at all. And I have a saying, and that saying is some people drink too much and other people don't drink enough. Because you meet some people and it's like, fuck, they really need a drink. But it's all individual and what it is for you. And all I can say is that in my experience is that when people go through a prolonged period of abstinence, the chances of going back for most people in my experience, but maybe I'm clouded in my view because of what I do. But most people don't go back. And if they do go back, they don't go back to the same level of what they were before.
Yeah.
And the only way to get that clarity and that peace of mind, like you say, is to go through a period of abstinence first.
Mm.
You can't sort of just cut down and then get to, well, very rarely do people cut down and get to a period where they're comfortable with. They normally have to abstain for a period of time. And then they go back to it, they'll go back to it in a different way. And there's lots of programs around these days, whether it's 1 year, no beer, and all of those other mobs at the moment, they're all promoting the same thing, which is a period of abstinence first, and then reassessing your relationship with alcohol from there on in.
Okay, Christian, thank you so much for coming in and telling us all about that. And if anyone's interested in seeing Christian, just click on the link below. All his details are attached to the YouTube clip and to the podcast. So thanks a lot, and I hope everything goes well. And we look forward maybe to having you on the show again.
I'd love to. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you. You've been listening to the Secret Men's Business podcast. Don't forget this podcast is out every week. When you do click on the podcast, either on YouTube or on Spotify or iTunes, make sure you click and subscribe and follow us. Okay, till next time, have a great